All right, it is Sunday night, the weekend of July 28th, and welcome to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. Taking a look at the price action for the indexes last week, starting with the NQ. We kind of talked about the previous week saying, hey, if we're going to hold this zone up here, then we really need to see 19,900 kind of gained and held. That's kind of this price projection that we had going on here. We had a great look for that going into Tuesday's close, and then immediately on the next session open here at 3 p.m. Tuesday into Wednesday, we ended up losing that level and never regaining. So into Wednesday's session, we had this really significant drawdown, about a 700-point day down on the NASDAQ. So a huge drawdown there, and that did confirm our downside option for seeing potentially what was going to happen for the price action on NQ. It did kind of tag these areas that we were looking at. It actually kind of over-tested and even went lower, but ended up slurping back up and sort of closing back in the previous range. The kind of those levels down here at 19,080, 19,036 that we were looking for. Interestingly enough, later into that week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have started seeing some tests for a potential level to gain to potentially retest the failure that sent us down back up here at like sort of 19,800 that was lost to start sort of this sell-off here. Really kind of locally, what we're looking for right now would be a gain of 19,300, a close above with like a nice little retest even there, and then seeing that hold to potentially retest where we've come down from. If we can't regain this level, we are currently testing it right now on the hourly. If we cannot gain and close above here, and see more upward pressure, if we fail to gain this, it will look like more downside pressure on the NQ. So looking more down here, kind of the sub 19,000 levels, so probably closer to 18,000 if we look really quickly, and we will have to clean this chart up going forward. There's a lot of levels there from old to price projections, but we're looking kind of more likely to be losing another, from current price, 19,300, looking to lose about another 600, 550 points, somewhere around there. 18,750 is probably the next zone that we're looking at if we fail to gain 19,300. If we can gain that and hold that, we can potentially retest the high 19,000s. If not, we're looking to lose 19,000 going forward. So that would look something like this or something like this. So those are the things to keep in mind going forward. Let's remove our old projections and kind of see what we get moving forward here. In fact, we'll actually keep that one in just because that's the higher time frame idea. ES looking very similar. Kind of also lost the bottom here from the previous consolidation. We failed way up here and just got continuation down all the way to about 5,435-ish around here. The levels it attempted to hold previously around 55.20, 55.05, we've actually ended up closing back above there on the 4 hour. So a good look would be kind of a nice test of 55.05 and then, continuation back higher. Kind of a similar look of what we need to see on NQ, where NQ hasn't quite gained the level, ES has already gained the level, just need to see that hold and continue higher. If we fail to hold here and lose 505 again, we could lose another, almost 200 points. I mean, it's going to be a big move on the ES if we end up losing those levels. So kind of a similar look. We're looking to either hold here and pump higher or lose this level again and dump lower. So that's kind of the only real difference here on the ES compared to the NQ. RTY, another great week. So, we had come off last week on like kind of a little bit of a retracement from the move up, and we've sort of done a bit of regaining here, and we are kind of sitting at previous highs on the last leg. So if we kind of zoom out and we use the weekly chart, that was kind of just a noise, a noisy week. So we did end up closing last week after all the noise up quite big, and we're looking for continuation. If we can close somewhere up here, kind of right on the level to gain right now, if we can close above 2290-ish, well, it says 87, but around that area, we can get continuation back up to the weekly failure from all-time high, which is 2370. So if we can take that out, we can actually try for a new all-time high. I'm personally of the belief that I think that we are going to probably see that happen. And my evidence for that is we talked a lot last week about really just, expecting some kind of retracement down, but not wanting to see 2150 loss. And we've consolidated far above that and are regaining. So it doesn't look like we're going to end up losing the level that could potentially, throw into jeopardy this uptrend. We're just seeing continuation higher. So at this point, it's all gas, no brakes on the bull train on the small caps right now. Looking really good for higher. Nothing's really changed there. Just keep an eye on 2290 and see if we gain that. If we do, we expect higher. If not, we could see a little bit further retracement, but looking good for higher right now. Gold, another interesting one, right? So ended up trading down with with the rest of the market after attempting to regain early, putting in new lows. So right now we're really looking at this zone, and we see a nice test here, clean at 2400. That ended up selling off. We are still on the way up. What I'd really like to see is kind of see this fib hold right here, 2396. If we can pull that off and then regain above 2421, then we're looking good to sort of regain this failure that sent us down. If we can't regain 2396, we could make new lows, or end up coming back in to somewhere in this zone, maybe 2372 for support. Otherwise, we're going to end up making new lows, probably down here at 2342. So if we can hold, like, all eyes, in my opinion, are really on this 2396 level. If we can hold there, we can move higher and attempt to, continue pushing to new highs. If we fail that level, we're likely to make a new low. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. The Dow, a bit of a departure, like similar looking price action to the other charts, but unlike the other major like the NQ and the ES, the major indexes, this one's got like a very definitively clean, nice like higher high look after making a low. So we lost this zone. We did end up actually coming kind of right down to the area that we pointed out. We had a nice little clean retest. We put in a nice higher low here, and now we've made a new high. So at this point we're seeing, this is all just a nice little reversal. We could actually come and retest this level down here at 40,485, and that would be a nice higher low look again that could send us back to all-time high. We could see that. If we do end up losing 40,488, that's going to end up being something that would potentially clue us into maybe seeing more downside. But until that ends up playing out, it does look like we have a nice reversal on the trend back to up until we lose that zone. So we'll have to see if that plays out into this week. Oil, similarly, we talked about after making on the daily chart here, this whole run up, we expected some kind of retracement down, and that's kind of what we got. Closing into last week, we were like, hey, as long as we don't really lose 76 or 75.60, then we're still okay to put in a higher low, even on the higher time frame on the weekly chart here. If we end up losing, still that hasn't changed. If we end up losing 75.60, it's gonna be not a great look. We really would need to see like a quick loss of the level, closing back in and kind of moving back up. If we lose kind of this zone at 75.60, 76.17, kind of anywhere between those two zones, it's gonna start looking like we're losing the regain of this reversal down here, this new low, and then putting in a new high. We're just looking to put in a higher low at this point. If we at any point make a new low, or we lose this level, because this is just the most important regain level, around 76 and 75.60, we're starting to potentially look at even further downside. I still think there's a good chance that we could end up regaining the failure here at 80.66. If we can do this, then I would actually expect at least another 5 points up, back to 85.74. So if we can regain 80.66, I'm thinking we're actually going to end up making a new local high up here to 85.74. So that's kind of what to look out for moving forward there. The dollar index, kind of a just slow grind week. So last week we talked about, we've regained the zone. We really don't want to see the zone lost. And if we do, the last attempt to hold is somewhere around here, 103.9. And if we lose that, we're talking about another, you know, coming way back down here to 103.6, or more likely, since we have these tests, even all the way back down here to 103 even. That would be a pretty significant loss of over an entire point, and definitely confirmation of further downside. We will have lost the potential uptrend at that point. So currently, as it stands, we are holding that level. So until, you know, we'll have to see if anything changes this week. It is FOMC this week, so we could expect big moves on the dollar. But if we can hold this zone at 104.2, then we can continue to move higher. If we do lose this zone, the last area to hold is 103.9. If we lose that, it's probably going to lose over a point. So keep an eye on these zones on the dollar. Lastly, on KRE, if our charts could behave ourselves, essentially what's happened here on KRE is we just had massive continuation on this move. So we talked a lot about, after regaining the zone 56.5, that, you know, now it makes sense we could see any of these lower levels tested as a higher low to then, you know, continue further up. But we've just gotten continuation. There's been, all of the previous areas have been held the whole way up, and we're just getting continuation higher. So at this point, the next level is probably in the 60s. We have that level marked at 60.46. So because we've held the level that we've gained and haven't retraced down further at all, it's just continuation up. So I think that we could start to sort of run into some resistance around 60.45, as I've said here, but also potentially 62, maybe 0.7. Anywhere in here, you know, we could kind of look for a deeper retracement, but the important thing to look at here is that these are nice gains. So we've kind of started to get some closes, maybe not on the weekly chart, but certainly on the 4-hour and some of these other lower time frame charts. We've gotten some good closes back in the range that we failed from, which means that we are seeing some good gains here. So my guess is that this week we could either see a nice continuation up to some of these two levels, and then a nice little pullback potentially to any of these levels would make sense. We wouldn't want to see, really, we wouldn't want to see 54 lost. If we do lose this, you know, that's going to be a failure of the section, the price that sent us up. So and that's going to be a deep move if we get that. That's 10 points. Just, you know, there could be some strong volatility with the Feds talking this week, but what's going to happen is anywhere in this zone to put in a nice higher low is a totally valid long entry. That doesn't mean that we could not get further continuation back to the upside, but we have seen a big move. It would not be unrealistic to see some of that retraced, and looking for good longs. At this point, I'm super bullish on the regional banks. The technicals are screaming higher, so that's just a great look. I think that we could certainly see higher this week, and if not, any retracements are something to look for buying opportunities on. But, you know, until the trend bends, there's no reason to fight it. Looking good for higher. So, you know, that's really it. It was kind of a straightforward week on a lot of these charts. You know, I think the NQ and the ES are actually the most confusing right now, but they're kind of just in a holding pattern in their zones until we actually see kind of where the move's going to end up being. And I think the Fed meeting this week with FOMC is certainly going to be the catalyst one way or the other, as it always is. So keep an eye on those levels and just be careful trading the FOMC if you want to do that. But anyways, thanks for tuning into the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. If you like this kind of content, sub to the Hub and consider joining our Trader Hub Discord community server. You can find it using our link in the description. See you next week.